Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back. You know what day it is. It is Wednesday. Happy hump day. Today we have an amazing person on the podcast today, as usual, and I am so glad to call her a friend. Her name is January Olds. She is the founder of clean skincare company January Labs. She is a licensed esthetician. Her products initially captured the attention of celebrity makeup artists and estheticians as she grew into an internationally recognized line of high-performance products that can be found at Credo Beauty, Neiman Marcus, direct online, and at a host of retailers around the world. January Labs is celebrated by beauty editors on the pages of Cosmopolitan, Vogue, Birdies, Coveteur, Women's Health, and New Beauty, among others, for its simplicity, effectiveness, and accessibility. Welcome, January. Did I miss anything while introducing you today?
No, it's perfect.
Awesome. So I am so excited to have you on today. I'm so excited. We had a little chat earlier. I was like, I should have hit record. We were having such a great conversation. So January, we know you own a beauty brand. Let's just not kid ourselves here.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I love learning about your story. So I already feel so connected.
Thank you. Thank you. So you are in the skincare business, right? And your company promises that less is more.
Yes.
I love that motto. I live by that motto. Can you explain what that means to us and how your products accomplish that? Like, what is that less is more mentality before I get into all the other things? But I just really wanted to kind of like surprise you with that question.
I love it. Yes. I think in beauty, everyone loves consuming more because it's fun and there's new products but when I set out to develop my line, my past is working for a company called Hirons, which I'm sure you know of, and Epicurean. That's my past. And both lines had huge product lines. I mean, there was 10 cleansers for different skin types, and when I set out to make my line, I really wanted to simplify things. We're dealing with skin. My perspective is when you're using the right ingredients, you can really use one product to solve a multitude of problems with the skin. So ingredients I love to work with: lactic acid, salicylic acid, great for pigmentation, fine lines, texture. So when I say less is more, it's using one product to kind of combat different things that your skin is struggling with. So if you have hormonal breakouts, you're probably having aging or fine lines or things that you want to address as well. And the beauty is when things are formulated the correct way, you can kind of target all of those things. So the idea of having 10 products in a regimen is just not how I live my life, even though I'm in this world and I do consume a lot of products. It's usually 4 to 5 products a night, if that. Maybe it might just be one product, but your product should be working hard for you. And that's really what I've set out to do. Um, Formulation is everything. A lot of brands, we're all working with the same ingredients, but it's just how you formulate.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Especially like I think that is just so appropriate for like 2021 and 2020 with the pandemic and everything, and like less is more, and like we're seeing the skin trends of like skin minimalism and just like people getting more aware of like what's in their product, how is it formulated, is it working for me? I love that you say that like your products need to be working hard for you, and I never heard that before.
I'm a licensed esthetician as well. So it's interesting. Certain things just do not change in skincare. There's certain ingredients that, regardless if there's new technology coming out, there's just certain ingredients that work well. But the other thing is how your products are formulated, what ingredients you put in it. That's always just been something that's really, really important to me. When I worked for the other companies I worked for, I loved their product lines. I still do. I just think that we don't need such a huge selection. Somebody who has oily acneic skin can use my cleanser, but somebody who has dry, dehydrated, and even rosacea can use the same exact cleanser. So when it comes to simplifying, it's making the selection easy on the customer, but the formulas are more complex, but we kind of handle that for you. So I've noticed, and even when I recommend products to people, I'm like, try two to start with. I'm like such a minimalist. I'm not pushing 20 products at once. I'm like, try our cleanser and then maybe our night cream. And as they start to develop with the line, their skin really evolves and you're able to pinpoint really what works for you. Because I don't love the idea of just, layering 20 serums and then switching it off. And, if you're not really able to target what's working, you don't really know. I'm sure you have tons of products sent to you all the time and you're just kind of switching it up a little bit.
Yes, I am.
You need to really just find what it's so nuanced, every skin is so different for everyone. So you need to just kind of work with something for a while, not overdo it. I usually give people a skincare make under.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
January, I think we're going to be new BFFs. I'm also a licensed esthetician, and even I myself get overwhelmed with products and ingredients and formulations. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm getting confused, what about the people who are like not in the industry and like they are like, what is a toner? What is a serum? What is a tonic? What is an essence? What are these things, right? Like, do I need them all? How do I layer them on? Sunscreen, oh my God. And so like, I love the concept that less is more. And this is the first time I've heard anyone say, let your ingredients work hard for you. Like, I think you should like trademark that or something.
I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think as far as the education goes, like I'm constantly learning, I love going into webinars or just continually learning what's new because ingredients are always changing. All of a sudden something's bad for you and you have to switch it. And with our formulas, we often change our formulas slightly. Generally it will be the same texture, but if there's another ingredient that is better or maybe something more sustainable, we will alter that. And that, you look at some companies who have had the same formula for 30 years and in the meantime so much changes. Caroline Hirons, I'm sure you've heard of her. She's an incredible blogger and she's an author now. Her book, gosh, I think it's a book on skincare. It's Caroline Hirons. I can't remember the exact name off the top.
It's okay. We'll get it and link it in the show notes.
Yes, that book is so precise and on point. I love her. She's incredible. But if somebody is confused, just get that book. It's also in an audiobook, so if you just want to listen to it, and she just really simplifies things. It really doesn't have to be confusing. I think that there's a lot of people using sales tactics and like, oh, this is dirty and this is bad and that's all gimmicky things to sell products in my opinion. And I think that nobody's setting out there to make products that are unhealthy for you or that are gonna eventually kill you. So it's that product, that book has really helped direct people. And basically, if you're, cleansing, using a good acid, a good toner, moisturizer, it really clarifies things. I go to that book a lot on things that I might have forgotten through the years. I mean, I've been an esthetician for like 20 years. I'm aging myself here.
Okay, so let's take it back a little bit. Let's go back to the name of your brand. It's your name.
Yeah.
Does that get confusing sometimes? Or do you feel like because it is your name that it is you? Like, I know a lot of people always struggle when they have a brand. Like, is it my name? Is it not my name? Am I tied to the brand? Like, what I do, like, does that also reflect on the brand, or what the brand does that reflect on me? Like, I would love to get your perspective on that because that is your name.
Yes, it is. It's funny, when I was thinking of naming the line, I wanted to go with something really obscure that didn't really make sense. I was floating around these like Blue Bee or Blue Abide in French, and I'm like, this is not me. And it's all about simplicity. But what is me is the name January. I'm born in November, so that's good to know. I'm a Scorpio. Just so you know, I'm born in November, so my name is already kind of unusual. And when I asked my mom, she's like, you just looked like a January. So that's the answer I get. I'm also 6'1", so it's really hard to blend in when you're 6'1" and your name's January. You're like, oh, that was someone else. That wasn't me. So there's no way
Yeah.
to get around that. So my name has always been such a huge part of my day. Even ordering coffee. Were you born in January? Why is your name January? Literally every day of my life. Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of who I am. So when naming my brand, it had to be January. And then Labs comes in because that's really the idea that they work, that they kind of the idea of using products that are geared in nature, but also scientific. And they have it. So it just was born January Labs. I feel like January is a little more of like a clean, fresh start. It's all about new beginnings. And then Labs gives you the feeling of trust. It's something that's formulated correctly, and it just works.
It can be challenging when your name is on the label sometimes, and like maybe like maybe is your identity the brand? Are you separate from the brand? Are you like, what if you do something and it doesn't, like I said, like what if you like become a pilot and you're like, oh well, January Labs is a pilot now.
I love what I do. I love my products. I feel like I'm really offering something to the world that helps. I feel like, one thing I love is just getting feedback from customers, or noticing people have ordered for the last 5 years and they continue to order, and so it's extremely rewarding. So I do feel very tied to the name, and I am proud of it. Who knows what will happen in the future as far, a lot of brands get acquired and they have someone's name and then they run into trouble like, oh, is this, I think the most important thing to me is the integrity of the ingredients, the integrity of the product, continuing that. And that will always be a lot because my name is on there. And also my line is really a reflection of what I use, what's worked for me. Everything that we create has a purpose, and it's really only because I use it and I see a result and I love it. I use every single one of my products. I rarely deviate and try another line. Even though I have friends in the business, so I'm like, yeah, send it over. But it's just, I actually have a few here, and I match today.
Yeah.
This is my night cream. This is my favorite product in the line, and I started using that for 2 years before it was even created because I wasn't able to create it yet. Everything has been done so organically. I've grown this company. So I had a lot of time to test things, see that they work, see that there's a purpose for them. The cool thing about not being owned and being privately owned is you don't have this pressure to make newness. Everything that I offer, I don't want to overwhelm the customer. I want to recommend things because it's something that's really useful that they can use and use indefinitely. Your skin really evolves with the product. I do feel very attached in a very good way.
No, what a great answer. And that's actually, you bring up a great point about kind of like, like artists and singers, like they have like that one hit and then the label is like, you need to do the next one. And then the pressure's on, like, is it gonna be the next hit? Like, am I gonna bomb it? So like, I love that you mentioned that because I don't know, for me, it just tells me that your brand has more, like, not that other brands don't, because I love a lot of brands and including yours, but the integrity, right? Like you're like, no, this is what I stand for. This is what I love. And I don't have the pressure to like, come out with like SPF lip balm because it's like trending, because it's trending right now. Right. So I love that. So let's take it back a little more. Like, I feel like I'm going through a journey with you. We spoke about your creams. We spoke about your name of the brand. I want to know how you got into the beauty space. And I know we touched about it a little bit. And if you're okay to share with it, I would love for you to. And if not, that's totally fine. But just talking about beauty and how you got here and what that means to you.
Absolutely. I mean, there's two different directions to take that question. And what I love your story. I just thought of it and I got chills again. I'm so in awe of you. So that's number one.
Thank you.
And I loved that we talked about the things we did, because one half of me, usually when answering this question, I'm like, when I was a kid, I always loved skincare, which I did. And I was always giving my grandma facials. I was like 12 making yogurt masks and avocado masks. And I just always had an affinity to beauty. But, this is something I've never talked about publicly, but in my high school years, I actually was sexually assaulted. I was raped by a teacher, and it really turned I went to a very small private school. I had never kissed a boy. I was very innocent. I was very behind that incident. I mean, the story is very long. That's a whole other podcast, or maybe a few, but
A part two. We'll have a part two.
that's a whole history. But, for a year I was groomed by this person, and then this had been happening to several people, but I came forward about it. And, back then, coming forward is not the way it is now. It wasn't really safe. With my family, I'm so blessed to have an incredible father, incredible mother, and I had so much support in my home. But I left the school. It was insane. I was getting crank calls. And I'm like, why did I even do this? Why did I come forward with this? And really the reason I did is I have a 10-year-old sister who, a 10-year younger sister who actually went to the same school. It was a prep school that went from preschool to high school. And I saw her playing one day, and I'm like, if this person is still here when my sister is here, I couldn't allow that. I've never talked about this, so I'm like actually getting emotional right now.
No, go for it. Listen, this is
I've talked about it, just not in this sort of world.
Well, thank you for sharing, because I know that this can be helpful for people and for yourself, and just let it out. You are in a safe place, and we just, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and we will be honoring that little January after you're done with the story.
I love the little January part. Thank you. No, so anyway, this occurs in my life and sends my life on a completely different trajectory. And, it manifests itself in a few different ways, like eating disorders and self-hate. And, and I was in therapy. I had a very supportive family. So, but just my whole direction in life changed. And I have to say, it was when I got my job with a company called Epicurean that beauty saved my life. It was the one thing where I'm like, I love this. I am good at this. I saw value in myself, albeit I was still dealing with underlying issues. I wasn't completely healed. That happened later in life. It's all part of the journey. It's funny because you look at your life in retrospect, and it's like, yeah, it would have been nicer if I didn't have to go through all that ugliness, like the aftermath, and the way I treated myself, the relationships I was in, the crazy. I was crazy. I was just unhealed. So I would rate, and I say this honestly, I think I was just such a completely different person. I was an unhealed person. Now in my life, I think when people come to talk to me about, oh, how can I look better? I'm like, let's start from the inside out.
Yeah.
Because it really, at that point, it's just ageless, when you find that love from within. So really my life changed so much at the age of 15. And then, I feel like I spent 15 years repairing that and getting to the point where I am now. And, a lot of that healing still happened when I had my company. When I first started it, I was still dealing with a lot, and I was able to really overcome a lot, and I'm still on that journey. So really, as we were talking earlier, you start a company with one intention in mind. And, when I first started January Labs, it's like, this is what I know. I'm going to make product. I'm going to sell it. People are going to buy it. And it was simple as that. Now I'm like, these products are a piece of who I am. It's what I love. But there's so much more, and there's so many ways I would like to really be of service to women and men, anyone who needs healing, because that's where the beauty really comes from. And that's really my mission. If I could spend my whole day talking to people and helping them and giving them tools to get through trauma, to get the healing done, that would be a life well spent.
First of all, I want to take a second to honor the 15-year-old January who was brave enough to come forward and put a stop to it, and possibly even help stop other girls and maybe boys from having to go through that experience. So I just want to take a second to honor you and to honor the 15-year-old who was so brave, because especially like you said back then and even today, it is so hard because we're young. You are, there is a grooming process, it doesn't happen overnight. Unfortunately, like there are things that you may feel about yourself. Like you said, you spoke about a little bit about the eating disorder and like not feeling good enough. And this is a common theme with people who have experienced this. And we try our best to overcome it. We try to learn many skills because we want people to see that we are good enough, that there's nothing wrong with us, that we are complete and whole. And so a lot of us find refuge in different things, whether that's art, whether it's beauty, whether it is playing an instrument, whether something, right? Sometimes if we're lucky, and others, unfortunately, go a different route. And so like this healing process that you spoke about, I just want to say, I know that it was horrible what happened to you. And I know that you said that you spent 15 years healing, and you're probably still healing, because we're all healing every day. There's always something that comes up. And I just want to say thank you and honor you for that, because if you were not able to put in the work, you wouldn't be where you are here today, helping other people heal and impact them. And even though it may sound silly to some with a cream or a product, or even you talking and having your one-on-one conversations, because guys, January is very hands-on with her company. She is like sending voice messages to people, and she's like really hands-on. So like I am kind of telling people, DM her, she's gonna DM you back.
Yes. No, that's like my favorite. We started it in quarantine, and then I just started continually, I had a lot more time on my hands in quarantine. And so I'm like, let's do a Zoom consultation. So I would spend 15 minutes with customers, and then, I really became addicted to it. I loved it. And so I still do that. I don't have as much time now, but I
Right.
have a schedule and people can book the time, even if it's a couple weeks of a wait. And it's great because, it also goes into a big thing right now is sustainability with packaging. And I feel like that's all over the place, because the first thing that I'm most interested in is the stability of the actual filler in the bottle. So when it comes to packaging and how to be sustainable, I'm like, well, at least if I can get the right product to the person, they're not going to overconsume. So we're going to have less usage of so I'm like, that's kind of an area where I can really control that. And I've talked to people where, I'm like, we'll send you a sample of this or something to use, or, like we have these little mini sizes too. It's not about like selling. It's getting the right product, because if someone finds the right acid for them, they're not going to buy 5 of them and throw away the rest of the bottles. And so I just think, and even on Clubhouse, there's so many conversations about sustainable packaging. And I'm like, we as the founders need to be mindful about actually explaining the product properly. And it's not a one size fits all. So, and I even love if somebody sends an email, they all get sent to me, and I just send them a 3 to 4 minute voice note back explaining exactly how to use the product. And our return rate is so low just because of this, but it's also kind of our mission to eliminate overconsumption. So it's kind of helping in a few areas.
No, I love that. And I love that you're thinking about sustainability. And like, that is one thing that people don't think about. You think about the packaging, you think about the shipping, you think about where it's being sourced. Are you getting your ingredients from overseas? There's so many different things we can have like 10 podcasts like on sustainability. Like if you can go, it gets really deep, like insanely deep.
With ingredients, like clean beauty and if I have another person ask me, are your products chemical free? I'm like, that's impossible. Everything is a chemical. If people are really concerned about what they're using, just use less on your skin. Maybe not 5 serums, or because those all have more and more ingredients. If you're just using a little bit less, and of course using performance ingredients, working a little bit more, you're using less weight, you're consuming less. I mean, I think 2020 is really a time of becoming a minimalist with things, with now I'm like, do I really need a fancy car? Do I need to buy more clothes? Like it's not, it doesn't feel as good as it used to.
Right.
Things.
You spoke about, and not just you, but I feel like the whole world is heading this way. Like, it doesn't even feel good to buy like new things. And even myself, like, do I really need that car anymore? Like, I don't know about that. Right. So, like, all these questions that are arising for you, for me, and I'm sure for our listeners and everyone, is this whole thing about getting the right products, buying things that you actually need. You don't need 50 dresses and 30 like silver shoes, right? That was a thing of the past. And so when we're talking about skincare, you and I think have the same kind of mentality that beauty not only is a lifesaver for so many and a beautiful outlet, because skin is the largest organ on your body. And so like to neglect that is, I don't know, for me, kind of the best word I can say is funny, just to be like nice, foolish, just to say that, right? And like the part of the reason why, like, I'm thinking, why isn't skincare part of healthcare? Because our body does absorb so much, and we think about beauty in a holistic way, and it's not just what you put on your face. It's also about like eating well, right? And like I think you have the same values of, there are so many different components to beauty and wellness and just shining from the inside out, and like being the skin minimalism and having your products work for you, having your food work for you. Just, I feel like is that correct?
No,
Am I
you're right.
assuming
And
correctly?
really, when I get on calls with people and we go over their skin, if they're breaking out, I'm like, what is your diet like? And I don't want to be a killjoy. I mean, I break out if I have dairy, and I will eat burrata because it's worth a breakout. So I'm not saying to avoid these things for life. And, it's like wine is great and all of these things are great, but it's all about balance. And, I think the probably the worst thing you can consume is sugar. And there's so many ways to, make it kind of fun, like do a 30-day no sugar and just do it for your own mental state. And then you start to see how good you feel, how, as I get older, I'm in my 40s now. So everything is like immediate. It's like, oh, I can tell that I had a little too much sugar. So that once you start to see how clear your mind is, sugar is also associated with so many diseases that occur, and also keeping your body more alkaline and having, but really, I think the best way to get there is to have a really strong morning routine. So that's what I always tell everyone to do, because that's like where the self-love comes in and all of that. And then you feel like treating yourself a little bit better. I think it's good to start out the morning strong with a lot of affirmations and a lot of positive self-talk, and even like saying, when you put your feet on the ground coming out of bed, like, thank you for supporting me, bed. Today is a great day, and just kind of shouting it, and you're just kind of, woo, you're ready for the day. So little things like that can really help redirect you, so you're not kind of falling into, like, oh, but every morning I like to have a cookie with my coffee or whatever. You're like, I don't think I need that. Right. I have a little bit more of a boost today, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. So I'm actually going to ask you, if you're okay, like, can you share with us your morning routine?
Well, first of all, I'm kind of annoying because I wake up at like 5:30 or 6 every morning now. I'm one of those. And I wake up and I'm like, hi! It's really, it's a little bit annoying, but I love it. I wake up in a great mood, but I do need coffee. So every morning when I wake up, I do actually say, today is a great day. I say it out loud. It's just, especially if I wake up going, oh, I feel funky today, I just have to say that. And then I journal first thing in the morning. It's my favorite thing to do. And I have different prompts. Sometimes I just freestyle, but really I just write an affirmation. And, right now in my life, I really would love partnerships. So every morning I write, I'm attracting my perfect partner. And it gives you this sense of excitement for the unknown. And I love feeling excited. It's one of those, that I think being excited about something, and it's something you don't know, like I like surprises, and I like, So after I
Yeah.
write an affirmation, I usually write a couple things I'm thankful for, a couple things that I love about myself. In the beginning, this was hard, and now I'm like, I love that my hair is shiny. I love it. You kind of go on, and it's in a
Yeah.
fun way. And then how you want to feel, I think, is such a big thing. I mean, for me, journaling is not a little thing. It's everything. And you can really set the course for the day you want to have. And I think that's so fascinating that our brains, if we're putting this out there, our brains are looking for evidence for all of that to be true. So it's it goes beyond manifesting. It just is. We're living in a time now where it's not like, oh, I'm going to manifest this for my business. It's like, no, you've got to get in the frequency of that being now. That's not something you're waiting for. It's not
Yes.
something that you're hoping comes about. And once it comes, you're going to have the feeling of, you've got to be in that frequency. You've got to be in that field, in that feeling, in the feeling of love if you want love, and the feeling of abundance if you want your company to be abundant, or, you know, abundant in friends and family, all of that. So I think really getting in that feeling every morning is the most important thing. I always work out. Even if I do a little something, but I love hiking, so I often go hiking at like 7 a.m. for a couple hours. And fortunately, I have like a crazy friend who wakes up early with me, and we go. And she was like a Olympic runner, so I'm like, behind her. Yeah, I know but I feel like always work out with someone who's more fit than you. We'll get you there, or I'll do like some
Yes.
weights and all of that. But then it's funny because everyone talks about meditation, and last year I was a huge meditator. Like for hours a day, I was very into it. And this year I really haven't been meditating at all. And I do think, your morning routines change a little bit, and never to beat yourself up. Just going to go like, that's not the season I'm in right now. I'm not into meditating, but I am into working out. I am into journaling. I am into like affirmations, all of that. And just, waking up and having a healthy meal and getting to work. But try to keep your phone away from you as long as you can. I've taught myself like, no one needs me at 5:30 a.m. So like, do I need to look? So,
So, yeah, that's a good morning routine. I ask for two reasons because I'm sure that the listeners want to hear, but I'm also preparing myself. So when I do visit you, I know what to expect.
well, expect to have someone like come into the guest room going, hello, here's your coffee at 6 a.m. Let's go on a hike.
Okay, wow. So now we know. And I love the affirmations and even like writing about your like things that you love about yourself. I love that. I'm gonna try it and see because it's so hard to like give yourself
I mean, I
compliments.
often finish the journal. I write quite a bit in the morning, and I just kind of let it flow. There's no real structure, but a lot of times I just end it with "I love you, January," and just hear even just saying that right now, I'm like,
Oh,
like there are so many, like even just going like this or going like this is so nurturing to yourself, or saying the words like I love you, or even, if I have like negative self-talk, often I do that Ho'oponopono prayer, if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's the I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I
yes,
love you. And
yes,
it immediately negates any, like I think the biggest problem for me in my life, which was amplified from doing I know we spoke a little bit about this before, but I've done a lot of plant medicine ceremonies and things like that. And it really amplified the negative self talk I've had, even though I wasn't even aware of it. We go through our lives just kind of having our brain guide us. And when you sit back and go, wow, that's a thought I've entertained for an hour now, instead of just cutting it off from the beginning and saying, nope, you're not welcome here. Go away. That doesn't even matter. But when something comes up, like maybe something that I'm ashamed of, or something I can't control, that I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you, is the best way to just extract it. It's kind of like when um, how gratitude kind of gets rid of want, inadequacy, or unworthiness. If you replace that with gratitude, it like negates them. So forgiving yourself, and really, I mean, it's probably one of the more pivotal things that you can do by just forgiving yourself is such a huge thing. We don't need maybe a sorry from someone who's done wrong to you. We just need to give it to ourselves. So we have all of the tools within us. We have the power within us to heal. And that's really where my passion is. Skincare is the way to get there.
No, I love that. I love that because I feel like it just connects back to you and beauty and to like the message that you want to share. And it's just really nice to get to know you and for people to get to hear you, the person behind the brand. And I know that you are a little bit like introvert, extrovert. We spoke about this a little bit. And like this is like probably, I don't know how many podcasts you've done. I hope you said this is like
Yeah,
your
no,
first
I
one.
rarely ever. And it's so I love chatting with you because like your story and stuff like, it's so sad when you hear that most women have struggled, but I like immediately felt so comfortable with you, and I appreciate you just have the best energy. So
We just have so much fun talking. But so I want to know before I get into the beauty circle, we spoke about holistic health and wellness, and we talked about morning routine and how, like, if to do one thing, I feel like it's like start your morning right. Even if you're feeling like a little cruddy, it's going to be amazing. Just cut that off. Like you said, just cut it off. Like, cut off that thought, set the day right. And so I love that you said that. So, I have a tool called the beauty circle. And in the beauty circle, I have 10 categories that I have identified to be, in my opinion, I mean, anyone can disagree, obviously. This is a free country, a free world to thoughts. But I believe that these are things that kind of help you live a holistic, beautiful life. And I don't mean like beautiful like hair, makeup, lashes, and nails. Like beautiful, like when you feel good about yourself, when your energy is good, when you're in the state of love and not fear, so that you can be able to stand up for yourself, to set boundaries, just to love on other people. So in this category, January, that you had an opportunity to check out, where do you think that you excel in? And where do you think that you could use a little bit of extra love?
I feel like the internal stuff is really where I strive. Um, you even have like drinking a lot of water and things like that in there, I believe. The health
Yes.
aspect, I actually, it's so weird. I actually feel like this is going against everything we've talked about, but there's so many things as I get older, I stop to kind of care about like, oh, my hair or my nails, and sometimes I feel like where I'm struggling nowadays is really getting out of my workout clothes and taking pride in the way I look physically. I think and I know that goes against all of it, but I feel like that's something I'm struggling with. I think that's okay to go, wow, every day I want to walk out of this house feeling good and really honoring my body by putting the best out there. Like it was actually nice to do a podcast today and do camera. I'm like, oh, I'm going to wash my hair and get right. But that's how I really want to be exposing myself to the world anyway, like feeling my best and really feeling good being a woman and being okay with like, I'm going to wear mascara and put makeup on. And so I oddly, like, that's an area I don't put myself first in that regard. And I don't really do as much self-care as I probably should do. I never get facials. And I mean, I give them to myself. I know internal health is so important. I've, struggled in the past. So it's like finding that correct balance between not being overly obsessive, but being healthy, you know? Oh,
Right.
carbs aren't bad, or, you know, having some fried food is not going to. So for me, I've had to do the reverse, let myself off the hook and give myself a little bit more leeway so that, because that's part of beauty too, just loving yourself enough. Like if you and I went out to eat and you had a bunch of French fries, I wouldn't be like, are you sure you want to eat that? Those are the areas that I'm wanting to focus a little more on now that I have the backing that I do now. I have a lot more of the education as far as spirituality goes, the healing, the self-love, which I think is just such a huge aspect. And we find that by going,
Yeah.
there's a little January in here, and she's matters. This older
Yes.
January can handle anything, but I got to take care of.
But no, seriously, you guys have to watch the video. January looks amazing. She is glowing from the inside and out. She has done a lot of work on herself, and that reflects on her. Like, she is vibrating really, like there's no filter on here. Like, you can totally come and see her. She just is glowing from all. I know she just worked out, but still. I could understand why your mom named you January, by the way. Not because like you look like, I don't know what a January looks like. You look like a January, but I could see how January is like start of a new year, like just like uplifting and happy, and just like that kind of reminds me of you. And so like that's so cool that she saw that like when you were born. She's like, you look like a
Well, my
January.
siblings all have very normal names, so I
That was my
just
next question. Like, do you have a
I love my
February and a
siblings. We're all
September?
named after the month. No, no, all very, very normal names.
I want to go back a little bit and ask you before, because our podcast is coming to an end, and it's so sad for me because, like, I would love to have you for 10 hours, but that's not fair. But we will do more for sure. That's not even a question. This is so good. Okay, January. So, one of my last questions before I open up brag time, because I love brag time. This is where you get to shine, share anything new that you're doing, working on, anything you want to talk about. Um, I like to ask my guests to share one thing that they would have told themselves when they were younger. Like, if you went today, like January today, went back to like the 15, 16-year-old girl, January, what would you have told her today that she needed to hear? Like, what is that message?
I don't know that I would tell her anything because I really just, it's all part of a master plan. You know, it's hard to see people suffer or in pain and often when I talk to my friends and they're crying on the phone, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry you feel this way. Like, you don't want to take that away from them because pain is good. Oddly, that's one thing my dad told me growing up. I would be upset about something. He's like, pain's good. That's when you learn. And I never understood it until later in life. And I realized pain is our biggest gift, you know? So I think I would probably, if I had to tell her something, I would just say, it's all going to be worth it. So um, that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now because it's just, I feel like it's almost like a new book is happening. You know, it's not just a new chapter. It's like there's a whole new volume and it's starting now. You know, I think that's one thing from 2020 I've learned is that old way of life, that old way of thinking, you know, it's just like, I'm all into severing things with a sword right now. I'm like, I'm chopping that off. So I think I would just tell her, like, hang in there. It's all worth it. Enjoy the ride. And it's going to get tough, but just hang in there. And oddly, that's kind of what I have done. Yeah. And also, I would probably tell myself, don't dye your hair blonde. I did that in my 20s. It was not a good look. And cut it like a bob. That was my
Really?
worst mistake. So
I can see that. Yeah. Well, January, it's time for brag time.
this is like
Brag
so out
away.
of my element. You know, I think probably in this area, I'm really excited right now. When I moved, I recently moved out of LA and I have become, and I think this is how we became connected, but Kate Somerville and I have started a room on Clubhouse called the Bloom Room. And we really, she's in the same place as me as far as like being of service to women and really helping uplift them, help them in their careers, help them with self-love, help them in any way we really can. And so I'm excited about that. And really just everything it's bringing, new contacts and meeting people that are really elevating. I feel like all of these badass entrepreneurs keep coming into my life. So I'm like very excited about that. I'm excited about where this will lead me as far as how I can really be of service, really. The other thing I'm excited about, I have like 3 products in the pipeline. I don't know when to
Ooh.
start producing them, but I'm very excited about them. And yeah, I don't know, I'm probably sounding a little boring right now. I don't have anything necessarily to
No,
brag about, just that I love life. I'm excited about what's coming and new people meeting.
no, just through products and like helping tons of women, find their purpose and feel heard and seen. No, I'm just doing nothing, just all January.
Yeah, no complaints here. I'm excited about what's coming, and I'm such a huge fan of Clubhouse. It's been incredible with just the people I'm meeting. That's how we met. It's it's really brought a lot to my life. So
Same. We have the same sentiments. Yeah, Clubhouse is actually, I think, pretty magical because it's so different. I know we're ending, but I just wanted to say, like, it's so different than like an Instagram when you look at a picture or video and like it's so curated. And on Clubhouse, like, you can't curate your voice, you can't curate your energy, you can't curate your vibe, you can't curate what you're gonna say. Like, either
oh,
you
I
know or
can
you don't
feel
know.
someone's sincerity through the phone. I mean, that's why, like our Bloom room that we started a gratitude room, or our club is called the Bloom room. But one of the rooms on there, I know it's
Yes.
like very, um, but one of the rooms
I'm
is
like, wait.
about gratitude and intention setting for the week. And there are so many people. I mean, there's been magical things in there. Of just people like, I'm trying to find something to be grateful for and I can't, and just all of the people in the room coming together to bring that person up. I think that's what we need right now. It's such a cool shift happening in the world of people, being vulnerable, number one, which is often difficult. I think I kept myself so uh, protected throughout so many years, and now I'm like, just lead with vulnerability and you won't lose, you know. No. And that's
You
where I think,
can't.
and that comes through on Clubhouse. It's so funny. I was talking to someone, I'm like, Clubhouse is the social media built for me, because I always send people voice notes. And so now I'm like, this is like a whole voice note thing. And I'm not like a huge fan of posting things on Instagram. I'm like, oh, it's not strong. And when you have a brand, you have to
Yes.
do it. So now I'm like, Clubhouse, I just get to talk and listen and
Same.
listen and
Well, the same thing for me, by the way, because if you ever look at my posts, sometimes like it's spelled wrong and people are like correcting me. And I'm like, oh, like I want to post, but like I have major anxiety about texting and like getting the right message across. But on Clubhouse, I could just speak away my thoughts and feelings, and like there is no error in my typing because I'm
no,
not
and
typing,
anyone who's correcting
just
you,
speaking.
don't worry about that.
Whatever. So I'm just confirming to you that Clubhouse is so great because it's so easy. You could be cooking, cleaning on a Peloton, you could be like on a hike, and you could like time to speak, and then you could be like in a conference room the next second. And so like that's just so cool. Like we met on there, and I think I probably was like maybe mopping my floors, and you came on, you're like, I'm new to Clubhouse. I'm like, oh, that's January, I need to connect with her. And so like in real life, I wouldn't have been mopping my floors and like connecting with
Oh, I
January.
love that. I know I've done a couple of Peloton too, where I'm like, when you talk and you're kind of out of breath. But I always tell people, I'm like, I'm on my Peloton right now, because otherwise I'm like, I just don't want them to think I'm doing anything else. It's very, well, sound is probably not, or it actually could be good for business. I don't know. Just,
We'll never know.
I
I don't think you want
know.
to test it out.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for being on here. And so how can people connect with you? How can people find you?
So
Please
on
share with
our
us.
Instagram, we have a link tree, and you can schedule if you want to do a Zoom, or if you want, I should probably put more dates on there as we speak. You could also email at info@januarylabs.com, or go on our website. And I'm very much involved. So if anyone needs to get in touch with me directly, wants to go over anything with their skin, or, if anything, reach out. I really, I'm not just saying that about helping people. It's really, if anyone resonated with my story, or might need guidance in that area, even non-skincare related. I'm putting it out there. I'm like, uh, Yeah, no, I just feel like there are, like you said earlier, there are no mistakes. Everything, you just kind of have to surrender to the flow of life and know that whatever you put out there is what's coming back is what's meant for you. So
Totally. And life is not happening to you, it is happening for you. I am such a firm believer in that. And with that, we are going to be closing January. Thank you
cool.
so much for being here, for opening your home up to me. But yeah. And so thank you again for coming. I definitely do not doubt that we will have a part 2, 3, and 4. Who knows, right? But thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to what January and I have to contribute. I am so excited that a lot of you got to hear who was behind the brand, and we know a little bit more about January and her journey to beauty and her journey to get here and how beauty really saved her life. So I am so excited for everyone to kind of get their hands on this podcast. And if you found value, please subscribe, rate the podcast, but most importantly, share this with someone who you think would get benefit. If you know 5 people, share, copy link, and text them right now, because sharing is caring. Also, I would highly encourage you, because it would make my day, if you wrote a review and rated us. And if you want to screenshot that to me, I can totally post that up on my socials. I would love to do that, of course, with your permission. I don't do it without you letting me. But until next time, see you next Wednesday. Have an amazing weekend. Bye, guys.